Welcome to Doug's Open Mic, a podcast spotlighting local musicians, bands, and songwriters.
Hi, DUG here with Doug's Open Mic yet again. Today we have Brian Bishop, who I will explain. He's not a Doug certified musician, so be ready for that. But
Wait, he's not a Doug certified musician?
he is not.
Is he the first non-Doug certified musician that you've invited in?
I think he is.
But I am Doug certified, aren't I? I'm just not a
No.
Doug certified musician.
No, Ben's gone through this with me before. You have to be a musician. You just have to be. He wanted me to certify a restaurant, wouldn't do it.
I wanted him to certify me and he wouldn't do it.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, then I'm not gonna take offense.
No, don't take
Plus, who wants to listen to me whine?
Well, we will. So here's how I would categorize Brian. I categorize the people in music. Obviously, we have the musicians. Obviously, we have the commercial venues, which are the bars and Ben, the commercial people that are promoting music.
Mhm.
Obviously, we have the fans, but there's a small niche. Doesn't fit into any of those categories. These are what I'm trying to come up with a good name for them, but I have not done it. It's like the super supporters. Like a regular fan might be following 3 or 4 groups. They might go out to a bar maybe once or twice a month, to listen to them. They might do a little bit of a social media thing. The super supporters, like Brian, and next week we're going to have Susan Ryan, they're out there constantly. Yeah, they probably are following 10 to 20 groups. They're probably going out to listen to music once a week. If Brian kind of liked my stuff and I was playing at Perks, he would put out a social media post saying, "Hey, Doug's playing at Perks on Friday." These are the super people that are really helpful, but they don't get a lot of credit, except for the musicians. All appreciate them immensely. So that's why I'm going to categorize you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I just call it an audience member on steroids, but
that would be good. And Brian's also, I don't know if your dancing group has an actual name, but you go around with a bunch of swing dancers, right?
Yeah,
invading places,
right? And some people would probably contest whether we're swing dancers or Zydeco dancers or country dancers or what exactly. But basically I hang with people that enjoy music for being able to dance to it.
How many people, plus or minus?
Well,
I'm sure it varies.
In the westerly area, I'd say you probably got 30 or 40 people. Some of those are drawn. I mean, obviously, I come down from Exeter, and I live in northern South County, and you have people every weekend come to the Knickerbocker from Hartford area. So
really?
yeah, and they're part of our scene.
Yeah,
they because this is where you can come to dance. This is where you can depend on that kind of music, and places like the Knickerbocker that have a dance floor. Play the Ocean Mist if you're going to go further to the east. And there are places some of these same people will come over from Hartford, will come over to Providence because we dance at Nickani's or we dance at the Parlor and even the Met Cafe sometimes, and the Narrows in Fall River has dance space set aside. So those are the venues we chase, and there are a few up in that Hartford area, but nothing that really has the same energy that surrounds Westerly and the number of venues, and then you'll see, and it spreads from there. Just because the Knickerbocker has a dance floor, but we might get a half a dozen people to go to Sneakers in Groton and dance.
Yeah.
Or a couple of us, Brian was here, again, we have to be careful. We don't want to push people out of his joint or push his insurance rates up. But, a few of us would get up and sashay with what space we could find at Perks and Corks. So
Yeah.
it's not strictly limited to it's the musical energy and the energy of place, which Westerly is a really important focus.
So you mentioned the ocean mist.
Yep.
I have actually brought people that visit me. I said, I'm going to go take you to this bar. You've never seen anything quite like it. It's really dark. It's built out over the ocean. I don't know how they even survive some of these winter storms. Because I mean, if you're out in the deck, the waves are breaking underneath you on a normal day.
Yep.
And
Well, he had to fight the state. Just the whole reason I know Westerly music anyway is because I got to be friends with Pally, Anthony Palazzolo, who had the big fight with the state that went up the U.S. Supreme Court. And likewise, the owner of the Ocean Mist had to fight the state for the ability to protect his property. And then he ultimately finally won through and placed some good size rock. The state wanted to put a rock revetment to protect the road, which is the state's problem, and they wanted to leave the Ocean Mist on the wrong side. And that's the state for you. They don't understand the gems that we have, and look, we have great environments, great place to be. We could argue about this, that, the other thing, but they don't recognize the Ocean Mist is just as important as the beach next to it, in my opinion.
I would agree. The other thing about the Ocean Mist is right across the street from the Ocean Mist, there's this trailer park with all these trailers. I mean, really, really packed in, and I would say, boy, in the summer, this place must be rocking, because I'm sure all those trailers just filled with people down on vacation, drinking to excess, listening to music, and I was like, wow.
And you can stumble across the street when you're done. No,
yeah,
it's a great,
and there's nothing wrong with that.
And on top of that, it really is a great asset that you have places like that allow the shore to be shared. Because I think we all look, not that Taylor Swift will give me the time of day or anything, but it's fine. So she's got a mansion, and a thing, and people get that, and they protect their own little space, and the rest of us can, wander in front. And I'm, I don't want to wander up on our lawn. I'm not into that. But places like that trailer park that provide, kind of a down home, ability for people to access that vacation experience without needing to have $10 million.
Yep. Or even down Musqueamacka Beach, or whatever those cost for a week. I'm sure the trailers are cheaper. And you know what? I'd have fun.
Yep. No, that's it. When I go to Florida, I stay in a place called Briny Breezes. It's the only town in the United States that is a trailer park. The trailer park is actually a town.
Huh. Okay. Yeah.
And it's, between 1A and the water in north of Delray and south of West Palm Beach. And obviously it was the way Florida is. They're mostly kind of retirement trailers and so forth. But a wonderful, wonderful place. And I got nothing but great things to say about it. And so it's for you notice that across from the Ocean Mist, we have great resources, and for people that in a sense camp that have mobile homes or a mobile trailer, the ability to possibly reserve a spot in Charleston at the Breachway, and the state to have a campground there, and the campground up on the freshwater on Warden's Pond and so forth. It's those are great assets.
I got kicked out of Burlingame, by the way.
Well, I don't know what you were doing, Doug.
It's like,
were you over there certifying musicians?
No, we might have been drinking too much beer and making too much noise, maybe.
Yeah, that can happen.
Can happen. So, one thing I want to mention is we also I didn't do any adventures last week, Ben. I was pretty much
homebody,
and this week maybe the session over in New London with Craig, haven't decided yet, but well, like Brian Kelty was just here recording a show for tomorrow, and the singer-songwriter thing at Perks tomorrow, he's got Carla Farham, which I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, she's
Kayla Farnham.
All right,
yeah,
Kayla.
Kayla. Yeah, Kayla.
Yeah.
You say
Are you
Kayla, I say Kyla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you familiar?
Yeah. No, I seen her. Saw her at the Music in the Meadow. Is the first time I saw her over there at whatever that is, Connecticut College
Yep.
in New London. And Ben Parent had puts that show together, and she opened that show. It was Girls, Guns, and Glory. The Outliers. That's the old politically incorrect name. And the Outliers were on that bill with Carlene's, but Carla Farnham opened, and she has a vibe a bit like Sean Colvan.
Yeah.
As just a lone singer, and look, any aspiring artist, it would have a long way to go to be on par with Sean Colvan, but the vibe, the kind of the slightly but not overly breathy delivery, and if he's got what is that tomorrow night? Hey, did he give the hours for the singer-songwriter thing, Ben?
I think it's 8.
He did not, but I'll find it.
Okay, good, because
8.
Speaking of things happening tomorrow, at the Knickerbocker tomorrow from 7:30 to 10, Sad Songs and Waltzes, and that's a Ward Hayden and Outliers adjacent band. Basically, it's the band without Ward. And Sad Songs and Waltzes, and that's in reference to that's a Willie Nelson song, and they do Willie, they do Merle Haggard, and they do some of their originals, and so it's funny. You said you hang out with swing dancers, some, and I certainly do, but there's a little bone of contention in a sense that this is not traditional dance music in terms of those that maybe were reared on going to the Sunday dances, room full of blues for going on 50 years here or 40, however long it's been. That that this is not to say this is country music.
Yeah.
But to me, it's got a backbeat.
Yeah.
And it dances just fine, and you could swing dance to it, you could whatever. Now, some people don't appreciate that as much, and I'm the biggest don't if music doesn't animate you, if a certain music or certain artists don't really get your blood pumping, by all means, you don't have to, it's not people's responsibility to come out to preserve the music. But I say, don't write off these opportunities. It's shrinking. This is actually the last Wednesday dance at the Knickerbocker.
Oh, that's been going for a while.
Yeah, it's been going for a while. Now, they will have a first Wednesday of the month, but they're not going to do the every Wednesday.
Oh.
So this is the last Wednesday dance that's part of the regular series. This is the closeout, and I can't whether you dance or whether you don't. The thing about our crew of dancers, anybody who goes to Knickerbocker would notice this. It doesn't matter if you can dance or not. If you would like to dance, if you would like to try, they'll dance with people, and you're not constrained to kind of look around and say, well, did that woman come in with someone? Maybe I shouldn't ask her to dance, or but it's everybody dances and everybody asks everybody to dance, and so it's a little less cliquish. And of course, people know each other. You're going to see them together. But it doesn't. It's not a hard click thing. It's not like people look down their nose and go, "Well, I'm not going to dance with you because whatever. You haven't shown me your chops or whatever." We want the more people that come out, the more people that enjoy dancing, or people that come to listen and enjoy the environment created by having there be dancing there. That's who I'm hoping will come out to the Knickerbocker tomorrow night, and hopefully either in the break, or depending on the timing down at Perks, I'll be able to go down and hear Kyla. That's what we always used to do. We'd go to the Knickerbocker on Wednesday, and then they would go till 10, and then Perks would go till 11.
Yeah.
And John Speziali'd be playing. We'd run down there.
Yep. So I hadn't talked to Brian that much for a long time, and then all of a sudden, Sandy Allen was playing at the that restaurant up on Route 2 on the way to Foxwoods, and Brian was there with a couple of his friends, and he invited me to sit at the table. And what a I was like, by the time I finished, I was like, this guy knows music. God, does he know music? He could. I could barely keep up.
Well, and it's a happenstance of what we know. There's plenty of people that would know certain tunnels and avenues of music way better than I would know them. And I'm kind of a generalist, and I just go with what excites me. So and as I mentioned to Brian, when we had two Brians in the studio there for a little while, and as the shows were crossing over, and we do. I've really focused a lot lately on what they would call Tex-Mex music, or the San Antonio sound. You had Doug Sahm and Augie Myers, Freddie Fender.
See what I mean, Ben?
These are the guys. And you know what? When you play their music, or you mention one of the songs that they either wrote and recorded, or possibly a song that they picked up that was someone else's song, but they made it famous. Everybody goes, oh yeah, I know that. Yeah, everybody knows it, but it's not a band. It's not a scene that people seek out. So that's just the kind of scene that I immerse myself in, because it's just some great music. And a lot of our people, Johnny Nicholas played with Doug Sahm and all those folks.
Yeah.
Rory McLeod, who's down here playing they used to play with the Mystic Horns. And now he's playing bass in when Johnny McLeod is at the Knickerbocker. He's the law.
Yeah.
And before all of that, he played with Jack Smith and the Rockabilly Planet for years. So he's got the chops, and he was in Roomful, and they had a parting of the ways, which I'm not sure I've ever made him tell me the entire story, but in any event, he ended up becoming a bass player for Luann Barton in Austin. This would be back in the late 70s, early 80s. And so he was down there, and Doug Sahm was like a hometown guy, whether it was Austin or he was from San Antonio, but they're an hour apart, which by at an hour and 15 minutes, and by Texas standards, that's like right next door.
Yeah.
You go to a show in San Antonio, you drive up to Austin to a show, and then you drive back to San Antonio for another show, all in the same night.
Yep.
And so Doug Sahm would come up on stage with him, and Augie Myers played the Continental organ, which is that organ sound that you saw with the Beatles. The Continental is a touring organ, early transistor touring organ, very, very kind of early, scaled down version of an organ. And actually, it's funny. The most famous one was actually made, or the one with the most idiosyncratic name, is a Farfisa. Very similar sound, similar thing. You'd get 88 keys, or maybe only not, or maybe 70 or whatever. But and it would be, and the whole package would fold up. It wasn't light. It wasn't super light, but you could carry it. Not like today's. And so those pianos or electric organs would be around, and Augie Myers played that's part of the famous part of that Tex-Mex sound. Although the artist, again, another unique and barely known kind of one-hit wonder artist that really ushered in the era of Tex-Mex music was a guy named Question Mark and the Mysterians. And their hit was 99 Tears.
Oh, well, that I know.
See, everybody goes, oh, I know that. And it's just like everybody and their brother, anybody who could bang a keyboard would play that. And it's all eighth notes on the organ.
Yeah.
And ironically, these guys had Mexican ancestry, but they were living in the upper Midwest. This was in Wisconsin and Illinois. That band came out of. But 99 Tears went way up the charts, and the following, I think that was 65. The following year in 66, you had Sir Douglas and the Quintet, which was Doug Sam's. That was their attempt to kind of really get as big as the Beatles. If you see the old black and white, like Ed Sullivan versions of Sir Douglas and the Quintet, they had the bowl haircuts, dressed in not double-breasted suits or anything, but natty black suit, leisure suits, and they were really the Beatles from San Antonio, and their hit in '66 was "She's About to Move Her."
Yeah.
And that's the sound that's Ace. That's certainly not the only sound, but that's a sound I'm chasing. And in some ways I chase it because it's very legitimate. I like it a lot, but I also chase it because nobody else is chasing it.
Yeah. So I visited Austin, I don't know, 10 years. I was kind of disappointed, but part of it was timing. A lot of the big, a lot of the groups that were, you might expect to see in Austin, like maybe Jerry Jeff or something like that.
Sure.
We did finally find one thing that was on a Sunday afternoon that was pretty good, but in general,
what do you remember what you saw on a Sunday afternoon?
I do not. It was I'm trying. It was something like the guitar player from Merle Haggard or something. It was just one guy from a famous group type thing.
Yeah,
that was doing something every Sunday afternoon in the summer. It was fun, but
yeah. Well, what you do in Austin on a Sunday is you go to Ginny's Little Longhorn Saloon for chicken shit bingo. That's north. That's on Burnett, north side of town. Well up from 6th Street and and obviously it's north and the hip area these days is SoCo, which that's their takeoff on Soho, and it's south of the river. South Congress is what the SoCo stands
and again,
for.
Probably there was stuff that I just missed. But
the thing about Austin is, I realized this the first time that I went there. I was lucky. I had a friend who was at the law school, and he was a Texan. I met him because he did his undergrad at Brown University, where I manage apartment buildings, and not for Brown, but buildings that are adjacent to Brown that are rented to Brown students. And so I met these kids going to extracurricular stuff at Brown, and hanging out with libertarians up there and whatnot. And then he went to law school at UT, and he took me around. That's how I found out about Ginny's Little Longhorn Saloon. That's how I found out about the Continental, which at that point, SoCo was not the acronym. They weren't using the SoCo labeling yet. This is 20 years ago. But the Continental, which is really the center of that scene, was a happening place.
We went to some bar that was pretty famous. I mean, they had a lot of pictures on the wall. I can't remember the name, but I think we hit the right bar the wrong time.
Yeah, well, Antone's is the long time spot,
yeah.
and that's moved around. Was on 5th Street, I think it started. It went to 6th. Then they moved up to 22nd by the university for a while because that was cool. And there was another place up there, which is where Stevie Ray cut his chops. The Rome Inn. So they moved up near the Rome Inn. The Rome Inn was where Stevie Ray and Double Trouble, kind of hit the thing. And it wasn't that, they were like a few blocks, but it was the area where the college kids would walk to for music and other people. I think it's a good deal of crossover. Now there's not that much live music up there, but there's a Mike Buck, who was a drummer in the T-Birds era with like the Tailgaters and the Leroy Brothers, which were these really hot bands arising from that same milieu as the Fabulous T-Birds. And Mike Buck's got a record store there, which was the record store originally belonged to Antone of Antone's.
Oh,
so it was Antone, and it's still called Antone's Records. And Mike Buck is up there. And then right next to him and across the street, some of the best damn used clothing places I've ever been. So I had a good, that's not where I go for my live music, but that little stretch up there near where the Rome Inn used to be. It's a great little kind of college retail adventure. And I think I got this hat in San Antonio.
How many hats do you have?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. For 30 years, I had one hat, and it was a black Stetson in this vein. It kind of has that Stevie Ray vibe, and it's not exactly. But I got this hat because most people wear a hat with a roll or a little more of a
Yep.
pucker in the top or whatever. And this is just a little more ambiguous. Is that guy, might that guy be an Orthodox, Orthodox Jew, or might he be Amish, or, is he a country Western musician?
Yeah.
And I'm none of the above, but that's the hat's ambiguous enough, was my choice. So the first one I had was a Stetson, and I got it actually for the Mardi Gras used to happen up at Rhodes on the Patuxent. Chuck, who but still is instrumental in booking the music at what's now the Rhythm Roots Festival over. He would do a Mardi Gras up at Rhodes on the Patuxent. The weekend, some weekend around Mardi Gras, he would pick a Saturday, and I'm not a big costume guy. And some people would make elaborate, wonderful costumes and everything. And I just thought, I just wanted a little accoutrement. I was just going to go a little bit. And so I went out to Bonnydale Farm. I don't think it's there anymore. They ran into rough times. But at the time, that was Western Wear in Rhode Island, out in Scituate. And I went out because they said I said, I want the gambler style hat. I don't want curly. I don't want anything. I really want just something very easygoing, but that still has a little bit of a Western flair. And they said, well, yeah, we got one. We got one. It's $30. It's like, great. I'm out there. And I put on the $30 hat. Yeah, this will work. And right next to it, there's another hat. Put that, and it's same style, a little bit different hat band. And I put that, and so I picked it up and I put it on my head. And I had never worn a hat before that felt like it was meant to be worn.
Yeah.
Every other hat I ever wore felt like it was a costume piece. It didn't fit comfortably. It didn't sit on your head, or whatever. And so I said, wow, I got to have this hat. And so I turned it over, and it was a Stetson, and it was $120.
Yep.
And when was that? It was like 1990 something or other, 1993. I think it was Mardi Gras of 93, I think. Might have been 94, something like that. No, it was 93. I'm counting this by my marriage, which hit its expiration date at 30 years, but 30 great years. And this was just before the beginning. In any event, so this would have been 93, and $120 was a hell of a lot of money.
Yep.
But I had put that hat on my head, and I had to have it. And I never spent money on clothes. So in a sense, I didn't feel guilty about it. I just had to, recycle a few more cans that week to put some money in the bank account. And so I had that one hat for 30 years, and it's great wool hat, lasts forever, really, really spiffy hat. But I didn't wear it all that much because it was an expensive hat.
Yeah.
And I was always worried about it. So the last time I was in San Antonio with Lori, my wife, she bought me this hat. She said, well, why don't we get you, something that affects a similar pose but you could wear it instead of like keeping it in a hat box. And yeah, okay. And it was great. She got me this hat. And so after she died, I went back to San Antonio in November, and I spent 3 hours combing San Antonio looking for the store where we bought this.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it. And I was at a convention, hardware staff, the Specialty Tools and Fasteners Distributors Association. And I couldn't find a hat. And
that's an exciting convention.
Oh man, I'm telling you, it's exciting. Hey, you know what? The young women
I've always wanted to go to that one.
Yeah, the young women wearing Milwaukee shirts will, make up for the relatively dry fare otherwise. But who doesn't like a tool? Yeah, so I'm looking for this. I can't find it. And my friend who brings me along, he has a nut and bolt store and Tri-State Fasteners, which I've been trying to convince him he should open something up down near the water here, to service Connecticut and Westerly. But he's got outlets up in Seekonk and in Worcester, Mass. And so he got so sick of me asking him for special, like I want a construction screw with a truss head, truss washer, or sometimes they call it a button head or whatever. And then I'd want this and I'd want that. And he got so sick of me asking. He said, look, why don't you just come to the show with me and you can ask? And so I've been going to that show now. And so we were down in San Antonio, and he calls me up and he says, I'm at the Lone Star Bar. Why don't you get your butt over here? And I thought, I'm never going to find this store again where my wife bought me this hat. And I just wanted to go. And so I said, fine, I'm coming. I put the place into the whatever Siri there. But, when I put I'm walking, not driving, and I start walking towards the bar. And by that point I was in a hurry. So I didn't drop down to the river walk, which is a beautiful experience, but I'm just walking up on the city streets. I walk right by Western Wear, the store where I bought this stuff that I hadn't been able to find for 3 hours. And I called my friend and I said, I'm going to be late. I got to go in this store. And I went in and they had 8 of this exact style hat in different colors. And they are going out of business. So the hats were $20 a piece. Ooh. I took and I bought this entire stack of hats. So now when you ask me how many hats I had, I said, look, I don't know if it's vain to have a lot of hats. I now that I affect this posture, I kind of like it. And, I get approval for it. And given that my housekeeping is rotten, I figure at least I can look decent in public. And but I'd always had this one hat. And that was my whole point. Yeah, I have a hat. What's that with guys who wear a hat, and so forth. And, but, then suddenly I have a dozen hats. And that's very sudden. That's a recent development that happened in November.
So have you ever been to the hat store in New Haven? I want to say Delmonico's, but it's not that.
I should go. I've heard.
It's not Delmonico's. It's something along that vein, but it's not Delmonico's.
I should go there. Among other
reasons. It's
I want to get my hat cleaned, my good hat cleaned, and I want to get hat shaped. Yeah.
So I got a story about that. This is one of my best pranks ever. Mm-hmm. Is like so also I was playing with Dan Stevens a lot.
Yeah.
And
Rambling
that, and he mentioned something about, and I was talking to my friend, and I set this all up ahead of time. I said, John, we got to go to New Haven. I got to get a hat. He goes, what do you mean you got to get a hat? I was like, I got to get a hat. I'm playing with Dan Stevens. They got to have a hat. He goes, and I had already told Dan that this was going to happen. I said, I'm just going to call you up. And I said, all right, I'll put it. Dan, are you there? Yeah. I got somebody who's got a question for you. And so my friend goes, hi, Dan. I was like, I'm Doug Woodard's friend. Does he need a hat? God damn it, he needs a hat. I've been telling him. And so that weekend, me, my wife, him, and his wife drove to New Haven to get me a hat. We're like driving down 95. He was going, I don't believe I'm doing this. Are we driving to 95 to New Haven to get you a hat? Yeah, we are. But so the hat store, you walk in, it's all hats. That's all it is.
Yep.
It's a kind of a famous hat store. And there's a guy there, and basically for me, it wasn't like go look around and find a hat and try them on. It's like the guy comes up to and starts quizzing you. So, what are you? I'm a musician. When do you play outside? It's like, all right, you need a straw hat. You need this. It's like, hold on. Here's your hat. It's like, it is my hat.
Yeah. There you go.
And then they go, okay, well, we're gonna fit it. They measure your head, put little shims in, and like you said, by the time I walked out of there, fit perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep. So you should go. If you're into hats, you got to go.
No, I know I do need somebody that can help care for hats, and
they would be it
now and again. And I will, like, I look on Poshmark. I look now that I got caught. Now I want other, I can't have enough colors. I got to have toys like Batman, and so I look, and maybe it's a nice wool hat, but it's shaped, it's been punched in on the crown or curved brim, and I don't like that style. So I need somebody that knows how to steam a hat, make it flat.
They got to
make it fit. Yeah.
I mean, this thing has lasted forever. This thing, I don't even know how old this thing is, but I kind of like it. It works.
Yep. No, a good hat's a good hat. And, it's fun. The other thing that never actually occurred to me, because again, for years, I would wear it on special. I would wear it out when I did the May 5th gig. I would wear it to occasionally a kind of something Western theme. And then I wore it whenever I went to DC because my political affiliation is essentially Sagebrush Rebel. So I had spent time out in the West with miners and ranchers, loggers, salt of the earth people. And so if I was going to Washington, D.C. to plead their cause, then I would wear my hat. But mostly I didn't wear it. And these days I didn't even realize, now that I've taken to wearing it a lot, like people don't even realize what my haircut is when I have my hat on.
I know hat's a great way to disguise bad hair.
Yeah. And, of course, I don't think I think this haircut's coming back, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah. That's, and it's not that I really mind, I always, that's it. If everybody says, A, I say B, I am kind of oppositional. So if everybody reckons that you got a mullet, you must be white trash, I say, I guess I am.
Well,
yeah, I'm fine with me.
So when we talk about many, many years ago when my daughters were in Girl Scouts, there it's like, we got this controversy about line dancing. It's like, so they had some sort of event. It was line dancing and stuff. But Dad, like that. Yeah. It's like, so my take on line dancing is like, facing this way, 8 beats later, I'm going to be facing that way, 90 degrees. How I get there is up to me. But 8 beats later, I'll be facing the right way, and then I'll be going the other way. But how I get there, that's up to me.
Well, but when you look at people, I don't disagree, and it's a funny thing, because you talk about in the context of line dancing, where the idea for many people, or if you're going to study it, or if you want to be with the group or whatever, part of what's beautiful about it is everybody kind of getting there in unison, more or less, they're doing the same thing. And but of course, dancing is also about some freedom to express yourself and so forth. And what I find a lot when I go out, and a lot of times I'll go to little. I went to see Kenny Atkins at the Turnpike Cafe, last Sunday of the month over in, is that in Montville? I don't know. It's like Montville, something like that. And so I went to the Turnpike Cafe, and nobody there, I couldn't get anybody to go with me, and nobody there was really, he's playing just, straight up 2-step country dance music. You could have whatever. You could line dance. You could 2-step. You could Zydeco swing. It was great music, and nobody wanted to dance. But and sometimes they're shy that, well, I don't know how, or or sometimes they're shy like, why is a 66-year-old guy asking me to dance? There's various reasons why that might or might not be comfortable. But what everybody will do when the music moves them, which it did, is they'll get up and they'll dance in place, or they'll dance with themselves, or maybe they'll kind of dance with you, but it's not couples dancing. You're not touching each other.
Yeah.
And, that's fine. I don't have anything against that. I kind of seek the unity of dancing with somebody, but, and it's funny, once you do social dancing, once you do kind of what couples dancing, whatever you might call it, there's actually plenty of dances where you're dancing in what would be open frame or complete release. And so you're moving within the dance, almost the same as if you were holding each other, but instead it's based on that, on knowing the dance a little and on knowing each other, and then a kind of force field of moving together, which is really cool.
Yeah. So another line dancing argument, which I won, by the way.
Okay.
Was like was one of my friends like, line dancing, I'd never do that. I said, you never do line dancing? No. It's like, I said, if you were 25 years old, and there were 20-year-old girls out there looking really hot, and they were line dancing, you wouldn't like want to go participate in that?
Shake a leg, yeah.
It's like, you're right. You're right.
Yep. No, the line dancing is fun, and it caught on. I can't really do it anymore. I used to be I used to have the Zydeco Shuffle, which was a line dance that they would do in the Zydeco clubs I actually learned it in Mamou at a place called Papa Paul's, which is no longer there. And this is as rudimentary. Mamou is as rudimentary a town as you can find in Louisiana. And Papa Paul's was as rudimentary a club as you could find in as rudimentary a town as you could find. It was a really just an outback, place. And we went in, and it was a birthday party actually for I think it was a cousin of Rosie Ledette, who's a Zydeco accordion player, and they were having a birthday party for a cousin of hers, and so again, it's funny. Mostly the women were few of the men, but mostly the women were dancing, and that's the other advantage of a line dance.
Yeah.
Is you don't have to have an even number to couple.
Yep.
And you don't get people left out. So these folks were dancing a line dance, and of course we were the only white people in there, and they were exceedingly accommodating to share that space with us. And I don't mean like they should have run us out, but just they invited us to do the dance. They were happy to kind of work with us to learn how to do it. And
you work with people. I'll bet motorcycle. You can even go into a badass motorcycle bar, and if you're respectful and courteous, and you won't have any problem.
Yeah,
you will not.
Yeah, right.
You won't have any problem.
Cafe is a motorcycle bar. I don't know. It's a badass motorcycle bar, but
it doesn't matter if you behave, you'll have zero problems.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
so Ben, you got to keep an eye on our time because I have no idea. You'll have to let me know.
41 minutes right now. So,
right, so another 20 minutes.
However long you want.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and so you're absolutely right. And I think, and the thing is, there was a big craze. Part of what grew, ironically, a lot of the folks who are now in or coming to Westerly to dance, they started dancing at the Cajun Bluegrass Festival. And that was the precursor to Rhythm and Roots.
Yep.
And they started dancing there. And so that having, Cajun, and, it's funny that it never had Zydeco in the name, but Zydeco quickly became a very popular form there. And both Cajun and Zydeco were Louisiana. Culturally, they came from Louisiana. And so everybody, I was in Louisiana because if you were doing those things, you kind of did a pilgrimage, it was like going to Mecca.
Yeah, I know. I've heard that. If I remember right, you were at the Craig Edwards one when he had those Cajun guys there.
Yeah. I wasn't actually at his recent one at the United, but I mean, Craig was playing in at the time I first started to go to the Cajun Bluegrass Festival. Craig was playing in a band called the Zydacats.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the band that was hired to play the lessons, so you didn't take CJ Chenier or Dewey Balfa or, the artists that were imported from Louisiana. They didn't stand up there and play for lessons, so they'd play like a minute and a half. And then, the instructor would get up and give instructions. Instead, Craig and his band,
it's a great band.
Did that, dude? It was a great band, and it was a way to include local artists and keep that energy. So a lot of people learned to dance there. They would go down to Louisiana, and certainly many people had just incredibly positive experiences, like we did in Louisiana. Although, it's not some military secret that Louisiana, especially when we were down there in the 90s, in the early 90s, that was still a place where, there were sides of the track, if you will.
Yep.
This was a white community and this was a black community. And it was cultural. It wasn't, I'm not talking about Jim Crow 2.0 or, like trying to pretend. No, things are way better. They retained a separateness in some of these places that was and people, essentially, if you accept that, then you're apologizing for segregation. And I thought, people are kind of doing a little of what they're comfortable with. And the thing that I noticed that I thought the best phenomena over the years that I've been going there and the years that I have known artists coming up here from Louisiana is that as that music became popular outside Louisiana, because when we started to be interested in it, that was your grandfather's music. Like the kid, that wasn't popular young music. But then when it got popular outside, now these artists could tour. They could earn enough money to tour, and they've been coming up. And what I noticed was that created crossover between the Zydeco artists and the Cajun artists. The Cajun artists, principally coming from the from the white Cajun community or from that tradition, and the Zydeco artists coming out of a Creole tradition. But over the years, those had melded. Well, like from the very beginning. I mean, the point is the instrument, the accordion, was brought to that area by the folks migrating from Canada after the French were beaten Canada. And, just like the sad legacy in the United States, people's disappointment about Vietnam meant that, that we were spitting on soldiers, not everyone, certainly not me, but, that there literally was a negative feeling towards the kids who had fought there. I said, like, that wasn't their idea, for crying out loud. And, so when the French lost, I mean, the best musical side note, the best telling of the Acadian story is Robbie Robertson's Acadian Driftwood. And that's a great telling of that migration down, how they got down to Louisiana, because the British won, so they weren't welcome. They would be second-class citizens if they stayed in Canada. They weren't particularly welcome back in France, because essentially they were conceived of as a reminder of the loss of Canada. And so they came into the United States, and the United States had plenty of other ethnic communities and farming and people that had claimed land along the Mississippi, and they weren't particularly welcomed anywhere, so they just kept moving south until they came to the swamps that nobody wanted. And there were the Cajuns. They brought the accordion, the Creole culture and people who were in New Orleans coming in with the slave trade and from the Caribbean and so forth. They picked up that instrument, and that's what these musics have a lot in common. Although when we were there, they were often not played in the same place. There'd be, we would go to a dance hall in Iota that would be a white Cajun dance hall, and then you go to Richard's in Opelousas, and that would be
Opelousas,
and that was it, by tradition and by where it was, that would be a club where, and Slim's in Opelousas, that was an area where you would have Zydeco music. But over time, I've seen the artists actually, I don't mean to say learn from each other, but share with each other, bringing bits of music and things that attract them that really have cross-pollinated. It's like the Just So story of, like how the turtle and the hedgehog made the armadillo by adopting each other's traits. And, I saw a lot of that happen. And mostly it didn't happen in Louisiana. It would happen when people were, say, up here at the Cajun Zydeco Festival at Rhythm and Roots. You would have these Zydeco bands crossing over with Cajun bands, and then they would be getting on stage together and playing an amalgam. And over time, I think it's really had a positive impact. And not to be didactic about people who, a lot of times if you look at them, if you take it outside the context of race, there are white communities that came, say, from Eastern Europe and immigrating, and they would like to live in a neighborhood where people spoke their language and where they had common things. So I don't exactly mean to say that even self-segregation doesn't have very human aspects to it, but then it's these things like music that that draw us across, and we'd be down there, and we're invited into these. I all got going on this digression because of how warmly we were welcomed into that Zydeco club in Mamou, and and I thought our job was just not to be voyeuristic about it, and not to put our values on it. Was to, this is their club, they welcome us. I'm not here to make a National Geographic special about the natives, or anything. I am well, this is an experience that I'm privileged to have, and I don't want to make it more or less than it is. And there was an incident, I'd say probably 97 or 98, if I recall, something like that, maybe a little earlier, where there was this great habit of tourism then that was as the blues tourism had connected Texas and Rhode Island when Roomful cross-pollinated with Stevie Ray and Jimmy Vaughn. A very similar thing was happening with Louisiana, and a lot of folks from up here were going down to Louisiana. And at Mardi Gras, the tradition in the rural areas and virtually everywhere, even Lafayette, the center of some of this music, which is a pretty urban center. It's considered the hub city because it has access to the oil prospecting offshore, to the timber up north, to the chemical industries, and to New Orleans in the one direction, and then to Houston and Texas in the other. So it's the hub city. But, these were considered rural areas, and their tradition at Mardi Gras is not, it's not that they don't drink, but not the kind of drunk in the street revelry you think of in New Orleans, but they have trail rides where they all grab horses, fleets of horses, and they go riding from one place, one farm, one ranch to the next. And so on one of these, somebody from the Northeast who, was comfortable, decided they were going to bring a black friend they had made in Louisiana along on this trail ride, which was a white trail ride. And that caused, there was a bit of a stir that came out of that. And it's not that I think it's, that nothing should ever happen that should make people uncomfortable or open their eyes to things. But I also didn't think that it was up to us to have a value, just to have a value judgment that their tradition had been more segregated.
Yeah, I did that once. I brought a black person to a black friend or someplace, and somebody later was like, "Doug, why did you do that?" I didn't think. I didn't think, I just think he's my friend. I just brought him to this bar. You can't bring him to that bar down there. It's like
Yeah.
they were gonna knife him. I was like,
Wow. But but what I saw was that over time, I would say it's an improvement. But again, not because there still are no sides of the tracks or lines that aren't still drawn or people that have attitudes, but the musicians that were comfortable playing together, that were comfortable ignoring color, they became more comfortable playing in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And the brave people, one of the guys I first met down there was a sound man for Steve Riley, a kid named Jeff Thistlethwaite. And one of the reasons that to this day, I think Steve Riley is the best act coming out of Louisiana. Not because I don't like the other acts, and not because there aren't a lot of great acts. He always travels with his own sound man, and he always sounds impeccable.
Yeah.
And so I met him because at the time when this thing was up in Escaheg, the whole reason I was there was my farm was 3 miles away. I could actually hear music. I could actually hear the music through the woods. And so I would have people stay over when the festival was going on.
I wish I knew you back then.
And sure enough, one night, one of the people that was staying with me brought somebody back for a little rendezvous, as it were, and it was Jeff Thistlethwaite. And so I met him, and he is his family owns some timberland, has historically had timberland run, and Opelousas is on the north side of Lafayette. It's about a half hour north of Lafayette, and you're starting to get up into what they consider to be, you're not really there, but you're getting up into what they start to consider to be timberlands. And and this is near Washington, beautiful old community there, and he his family, his family was white, but Opelousas was a town that would be black or mixed. And what I realized was that he was a person who was unafraid of having relationships that might rub people the wrong way. He just, he was comfortable with it, and I think that that made many people comfortable with him, and gave him a great place in the scene down there. Talking about people behind the scenes. I mean, he's a sound man. That's really he's the sixth member of Steve Riley's band in a lot of ways, although a lot of people wouldn't know him. And
no,
that's that
another invisible person.
Yep. So that's I've seen great things happen, and in the long run, I think the music makes people more comfortable with each other, and it affects stronger ties that last in the long run because of what's shared about the music, than the kind of obviously when there were incidents, the folks from the North would get all kind of want to redo Reconstruction and explain to everybody down there how backward they were and so forth. And I just thought, like, we're the ones that wanted to kind of come down here and see this place. I don't really think it's our job to tell them they're backwards. We came down here because we loved this music and we were invited to it. We can have our opinions, and maybe people among them want to talk about it and want to grow and think these things. That's great. I just feel like it's not my place to go down there and tell people, what society should look like in these, in the realms of people dealing with it. Of course, you get, that's fine. If accommodations are accommodations, you get. If somebody wants to keep folks out of a restaurant or out of a hotel, they say no, but that's not what's happening. We don't have Jim Crow 2.0. We have people trying to get comfortable, and people where that's been a historic separation. They're trying to learn how to be comfortable with that, trying to learn how to put aside prejudices. And I don't think you get people to put aside prejudices by hitting them over the head with a hammer. I think you play them something on the guitar.
Yeah, and you travel. I mean, it's like and I've been lucky. I mean, I spent a lot of time in El Salvador. So
yeah,
and so I spent a lot of, and you know what? I got to know some musicians there. I went to some places in El Salvador that I was off the beaten path.
Yeah, sure.
But, so some people would say, "Well, isn't that really dangerous?" I said, "No, it was not dangerous at all, because I had local guys. I was with local people." Yeah. So I was with local people. I wasn't out there just wandering around on my own. I was with, people that I know, and they weren't going to let anything happen to me.
Yep.
And,
well, and there's a little bit of a density thing too. One of the things I noticed traveling in the Caribbean occasionally, since I took up kite surfing, there'd be a cordon there's a place where tourists are more, and where it's more common for folks not from there to be. And those are the places that actually, if people intend you no good or want to pick your pocket or just plague you with, selling you worthless trinkets or whatever it is that is their hustle, it doesn't do you any good to be 50 miles from that center of people where every 2 months one person comes through who could be a mark. That's not enough to sustain you. The kind of, in some ways, it's ironic. The further you can go away from where everybody else is, the better off you are.
Yeah, no. So one time I was going to someplace, and I think it was Puerto Rico or someplace like that, and for work, and and then one of my friends was like, "Oh, Puerto Rico, I was there." It was like, or maybe it was like there. It's like, yeah. Did your hotel have a big wall around it? He goes, yeah. It's like, well, that's where I was, on the other side, on the other side of the wall, out in the hinterlands in a small textile factory.
Yep.
So did you know Cajun wise, let's go back.
Yep.
Did you ever hear of Simon St. Pierre?
No.
No, he was a good guy that way back when I was playing bluegrass, one of our fiddle players knew him, and we went to and
Okay.
Yeah.
We're getting a time signature here.
We are, yes.
All
Okay.
right.
Well, you know what I do want to tell you before I go, for sure. You know, we kind of started off with that kind of my late interest in music in Tex-Mex, and the Knickerbocker has been gracious to us to let us do Tex-Mex on Cinco de Mayo.
Yep.
Every year, and this year it's a Sunday.
all right, cool.
It's a
oh
Sunday,
boy,
so you don't always see something happening in the big room at the Knickerbocker on a Sunday. But this year,
Yep.
Cinco de Mayo, the 5th of May, we'll have band playing Doug Som's music, the Texas Tornadoes, She's About a Mover, Mendocino, anybody going to San Antone, 99 Tears, and some of that other organ, kitsy organ music, Wooly Bully, and we do some outlaw country too, and dropping into make sure we get some Willie Merle.
when
Jerry
you say
Reed.
are you playing?
No, well, I don't know. No, this is the only band I can claim to have put together
Oh, you put it together.
that I put together. And this year, when it started, Ward Hayden was not touring at that time because his guitar player was off doing something else. His bass player, Paul Dilley, was out of town for a couple of weeks. And it was May 5th, got to be, 10 years ago. And so I said, and I was just getting into this music. And I said to Ward, I said, you've got the voice. I said, would you be willing to come out and sing if we can put the players around? And so he actually brought in Cody, the guitar player from the band, and I brought Rory McLeod came on the bass to fill in for Paul Dilley, who was out of pocket, and we put up a trumpet player, an accordion, just kind of an instrumental sound that was akin to this Tex-Mex, and we covered a lot of those tunes and had a great time, and Ward did it for several years for us, and then his touring schedule took him over. I mean, they just, Ward Hayden and the Outliers just got back from Spain and Sweden. So he does a lot of touring, but this year he's going to be around and he's coming back to do our lead singing again. So we'll just have a great night. And I'm kind of hoping, I was leaning on Brian when he was here. I had that chance to see if we could get a little else going at Perks. And we've got we got a Mexican and a Tex-Mex restaurant right there on High Street. So we want to make it a day to be, walk around Wesley.
Yeah.
The show at the Knickerbocker won't be late. It'll start at 6:00 because it's a Sunday, but we're going to try and have some music and places to eat and celebrate Cinco de Mayo. And the one thing Brian promised me for sure is that they'll have a tequila margarita, kind of for a martini, ready to
go.
Ready to rock.
What more do you want? So I'll make this offer right now.
Yep.
The Tuesday before the 5th.
Yep.
If you want to come on, promote the show, you're more than welcome.
Okay.
And if you want to bring somebody from the band, yes.
Yeah, sure.
And if the band guy they're not in town or whatever, whatever thing. It doesn't have to be Tuesday at 10. We can
work it. Yeah, no.
So if you want some promotion right before it,
sure.
We're more than happy to do that.
Sounds great. Well, it's this is unlike me to think 2 months ahead. Usually I'm thinking about what kind of great music is coming up this weekend. And we know, I'll be at the Nick tomorrow night for Sad Songs and Waltzes, and I'm going to try and get down to Perks and see Kayla Farnham.
Yeah, no, I'm like, that sounds like a plan for me also.
Yeah, that's a twofer in Westerly tomorrow night, so that's so I'm telling you what's happening tomorrow and what's happening a few months from now.
Yeah, that's how we roll.
Yeah. Amen. Well, thanks for being such gracious hosts.
All right. All right. I've been looking at Brian. I'm supposed to look at the camera. All right, everybody. I think we're going to wrap it up. Doug's Open Mic. We're signing off. Like I said, next week we're going to have Susan Ryan here. We're going to be talking about Perks back when they first opened. And we got a list of about 70 names, maybe even more than that. We're not going to do all 70. We'll probably just do 4 or 5 because they all deserve 10 or 15 minutes. Bye-bye.
Ever thought about leveling up your fitness game in a fun and meaningful way? Kiefer's Martial Arts on Granite Street has everything you're looking for. Kickboxing, Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and of course, adult karate. It's not just about getting fit, it's about building your self-confidence, discipline, and that unstoppable feeling you get from all your hard work. Stop into Kiefer's Martial Arts today to sign up.